and I graduated. I did my SPM in 1999 from Jitsin High School, 自行国民性中学 in Bukit Mertajah. And since then, I went to Cornell University, 康奈尔大学 in US, and I graduated with a degree in electrical and computer engineering in the year of 2005. I also did triple minors in industrial system and information technology, information science, and engineering management. And all this, I would like to say that let's trace back to history. Like when I was in 1999 SPM students, during those days, if you can see from the sheet is circulated, at that time, getting a GPA scholarship is really almost impossible, especially for non-Bumiputra, for Chinese community. Like, to many of us, actually I haven't heard of the word GPA scholarship until I leave my high school in Form 5. That was almost something that no one dared to dream. We know that from year to year, maybe we have a few people who might have successfully gotten it, but that is really something beyond imagination. And in that year, like I'm SPM 99, SPM 1998, I believe there are about 20 non-Bumiputra scholars, which is a breakthrough, and which Dato Sri Onkating has helped the Chinese community to fight for it and managed to convince the cabinet and the government to grant these scholarships. And for my year, I believe there's about 70 or so that managed to get Chinese that get the scholarships. And I still remember I come from my school, Jitsin High School. During that time, Penang State Chinese because that time there are very few Chinese, so I pretty much can count the number of scholars, and there was only about 3 of us from Penang State that got this. Today, my high school, Jitsin High School, has more than 30 last year. That is a big breakthrough from GPA scholarships, from 3 in a state to about 30 in a school. Of course, my school is one of the highest number of people that got from this total 550 non-Bumiputra, but even then, there's a lot of schools that manage to get a lot. And all this is really impossible without the scholarship. Both my parents are government servants. They have worked 30 over years serving the nation. My father is a public health inspector, and my mother is a nurse. And they do earn a decent, I would say it's a middle class. But for a middle class to afford my education in US, that time the exchange rate is still 3.8. My education, which the government sponsored, is worth RM 850,000. That is something that my parents, even if my whole family do not eat for the whole 30 years, it is almost impossible, or rather impossible. 85万，一个相当大的数目。And 那是在4年内里面花费 in 4 years. So all those costs, that means each year that translates to about RM 200 plus thousand. That's a lot of cost. And if you multiply by the number of scholars that we have, the figures is easily more than RM 1 billion over these years. And when I first went to Cornell University, that was my first time I touched an aeroplane. My first time, and that was my trip to US. So without this scholarship, without the government support, without MCA, without the Dato Sri Onkating support, there is no way I can have to be today here, to sit here and talk to you. I still remember that time, I can't even speak a proper, decent English. I was from Chinese school. Even though my English was decent, I did get A1 SPM, but to be frank, my English was very poor. When I first went to America, I literally find it very hard to understand American speak, especially with the accent. But today, at least I would say that I'm able to be here to share with you. And maybe I would like to share a bit from what, over the years, I have heard what Dato Sri Onkating has shared on how this scholarship transpires, and maybe I'd like to relate some of it. And for those of you that I believe you have covered this Dato Sri's book before, some of it was covered under Lee Kun Hian's portion as well. So you can actually refer to it. Dato Sri related in one of the gatherings to all the new scholars of SPM 2006 last year. This all started when Dato Sri, our current Prime Minister, who is that time Deputy Prime Minister hosted about 207 students in Putrajaya for a luncheon celebrating the straight A1s. And Dr. Sri sat with 9 other students on the table. And at that moment, Dr. Sri looked at, there was one student who was very quiet over there. And Dr. Sri checked, like all the students were very happy, this is a celebratory lunch. And Dr. Sri checked with the student and realized that that student went for some interviews for scholarships and was told that it is impossible for him to get a scholarship. He was from Chinese Independent School. And today, if you look at here, he's in his final year at Cambridge University. And MCA, through Dr. Sri and all other MCA leaders, have fought very hard with the government to secure all these scholarships. And to many students, the personal touch that put in by MCA leaders, especially Dr. Sri, really touched us. Like for me, I'm a student. I would never imagine a minister, MCA president, would contact us. And he did it to many students to reach out to us to understand how we, the scholars, when we're studying abroad, how do we feel? Any problems that we face. It's a personal touch. Dr. Sri emailed personally to us, and for some of the students that Dr. Sri personally managed to help to secure the scholarships, especially for last year, SPM 2006, those with at least 10 A1 and family income below 1,005 ringgit, Dr. Sri managed to get cabinet approval, and it was in the budget to state that all these scholars will get the scholarships, and that brought in about, I don't have the actual statistics, but I believe 100 over Chinese non-Bumi-Putra that managed to secure this scholarship through this special group. It's a special allocation group. And Dr. Sri personally SMS them. And some of the students would have thought that this could be the SMS sent by the personal assistant or some other people, and some students actually pick up the phone and call. And I heard from some of them, they were very shocked that the person that picked up the phone there is Dr. Sri Ongkating. I think this shows how caring and how personal and passionate Dr. Sri and MCA leaders are in trying to secure these scholarships. Let's look at it at a more macro level, higher level. Our government of Malaysia, through Barisan Nasional, has helped make this happen. I studied in Kelantan University, and at that moment, there are only students from three countries that have the opportunities to get scholarship from their country to study abroad. That is Malaysia, Singapore, and Thailand. There's only 3 countries, and students from other countries, it means either their parents pay for it or take a loan or forget about studying. That is just, we are very fortunate from this country, Malaysia, and we send the most scholars to overseas. Thailand send about 60 scholars a year, and the students, if I'm not wrong, has a 20 years of bond. And if they break the bond, they do pay triple. That is very harsh, but for the students, it is still an opportunity. Like for me, with all these scholarships, there's no way I can further my studies and manage to see the world and really learn from the best professors. Like my physics class was taught by a Nobel Prize winner. In Malaysia, until today, we still do not even have a Nobel Prize winner, not even Singapore. And one of my professors that teaching to me was a Nobel Prize winner. Meeting NASA astronauts, meeting very renowned CEOs was a dream that I would never imagine. But I got the chance because of these scholarships. So and talking about the scholars from these 3 countries, Malaysia has a 6-year bond and Singapore has a 6-year bond as well, which is really very worthwhile. Let's just imagine that the government spent 850,000 on me. Let's assume that it's only 600,000 and divide that into 6 years of bond. That means each year of our bond, it means RM 100,000. And which means during your study time, government has paid you, each of the student, 8,000 a month on average to serve the government for the next 6 years. And when we are serving, we are still paid salary. So this is something that I would say really today here, I would like to record my sincere thanks to our government, to MCA, and to all the leaders for making this possible. A dream come true.